In this video, I'm going to show you how to create Facebook lookalike audiences. In fact, I'm going to show you a better way to use lookalike audiences in your Facebook ads and Instagram ads, a way that can get you much better results today. So let's first quickly get started with what a lookalike audience actually is. So here I've got Meta's support doc up about lookalike audiences, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to quickly read out the first sentence where Meta is defining what a lookalike audience is. And they say, a lookalike audience is a way your ads can reach new people who are likely to be interested in your business because they share similar characteristics to your existing customers. And the way lookalike audiences work is you take a source audience, a group of people. It could be people that have bought from you previously. It could be people that have visited your website, perhaps people that have watched 75% or more of a video of yours on Facebook or Instagram. And you say to Meta, you say, look, these people are just the sort of people I want to reach. They love my stuff, they're engaged, they bought from me previously. Can you take this group of people that I'm giving you and go out and find people that are similar to them, that have perhaps similar interests, similar behaviors online, perhaps they're similar from a demographic standpoint, they live in similar locations, and create me an audience of people that are similar to this group. That's who I'd really like to advertise to. These people are highly likely to be interested in whatever I have to offer. If they're similar to my existing customers, it's going to be a no-brainer. It's going to work really well. That's what a lookalike audience is, and that's how it's structured. So that we'll explain more as we go through, and you'll understand more if you're new to lookalike audiences of how that's going to look. But hopefully you can already start to see the power of lookalike audiences when used properly. Meta have so many data points based on people's activity, not only within Facebook and Instagram, but also the stuff they track outside of those platforms. And that really allows them to work out very accurately who is similar to your existing customers, website visitors, etc. And these can be really, really powerful cold audiences, allow you to scale Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns, and can be a huge part of Facebook ad campaigns being successful and being able to be scaled and all that sort of stuff. So with that said, let me show you now how you create Facebook lookalike audiences, and then we'll get into how you use them and how you get the best results out of them today, which is very different to what we did even a year ago. So I'm here in Ads Manager. I've got an example ad account up, and you want to go ahead and jump over to the Audiences tab. So if you click on these three little lines on the left-hand side and select Audiences, so that brings you through to this page. Now, if you haven't created any lookalike audiences or custom audiences before, then you're not going to see these like examples like I've got in front of me, and that's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. You'll see something slightly different, but you can just ignore these for the time being. The important part is to go ahead and click on Create Audience. Now, you can see there's a few different options. Now, it's tempting, obviously, we're creating Facebook lookalike audiences here, to click on Lookalike Audience, but that's not actually what you want to do first. First, you want to click on Custom Audience. And the reason why is because we need to create a source audience for our lookalike audience first. If we're going to ask Meta to create an audience of people that are similar to another group of people, we need to tell them what that initial group is, that source audience is first. You do that by creating a custom audience. Now, there are tons of different options, different types of Facebook lookalike audiences that you can create. And I actually recommend that you use a bunch of different ones. I'm going to go through each one in this video. It's all going to be covered. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create these in order of priority. So starting with the most effective down to the least effective, but the old order of priority, the one that most Facebook advertisers are still using, that is now pretty much all of a sudden, fairly recently, outdated. So I'm going to create them under the old setup and show you exactly how they all work. It's important because you still need to be able to create all of those and use them in your Facebook ad campaigns. And then I'm going to show you the big change that we're making now to get the best results from lookalike audiences, given the changes we've seen, the many changes we've seen to Facebook and Instagram advertising over the past 12 months or so, because things are different. So historically, the best lookalike audience to create is one based off your previous customers. So people that have bought from you previously. Obviously, advertising to people that are very similar to people that have actually parted with their money for your whatever it is you have to offer is going to be a great option. So there are a couple of different ways to do that. The easiest one is to select customer list and then click on next. And then from here, we can import the data that we need to use to create our source audience from previous customers. And then we can obviously use that as a source for our lookalike audience. So if you use MailChimp as a place where you store your customer data, maybe use it as your email service provider, then you can just very simply import from MailChimp. So you click on that button, you just walk through the steps. It's very straightforward. You log into your MailChimp account, you select which list you want to use, you import that in, done, really straightforward and simple. I'm not going to demonstrate that because, as I said, you can just follow through. If you don't use MailChimp, perhaps you use another email service provider, perhaps you store your data in a CRM, perhaps you've just got like an Excel file with your previous customer information, something like that. All those setups is absolutely fine. You can still do this process. You just want to go ahead and click on next. Then you decide whether there's a column within that let's say Excel file, if you imagine it that way, that has value. So if this is a previous customer list, do you have it recorded how much each customer spent? Some will, some won't, depending on where you're getting that data from. I'm going to select no. If you do have that information, you definitely want to click on yes, and again, go through the steps involved, because it's useful not only for Meta to be able to see, okay, these are the people that bought from this company previously, who's like them, but also within these people that have bought from them previously, some of them have spent 3 times as much as others. Can we create a lookalike audience that is more weighted towards the people that spend more, the types of people that spend more with this business? So worth having if available. I've just got an example to upload that doesn't, so I'm going to click no for now. And then you just upload a list. You can see that you can do that in a .csv or txt file. You'll almost certainly, depending on what CRM, email service provider you use, be able to export a list that is in CSV format, and then you could just simply go ahead and upload that. Again, you could do the same basically with an Excel file. So if I go ahead and click on upload file, and then click on example customer list and open, we can see that that's gone in there, example customer list. Name your audience, example customer list is fine. Just obviously name it something that's going to mean something and resonate with you. And when you come back and check it, it's going to be fairly obvious. Then I'm going to click next. And now what we need to do is match the data within that file to Meta's identifiers. So for example, this column that's labeled email, and I've just got ben@example.com, as I said, it's just demonstration purposes. Meta have thought, okay, that looks like an email address. Is that your column for email? Yes, it is. But if it wasn't, we could come in here and select a different option, but email is correct. You can see that was been mapped, and then one action needed. We've got name in as Ben. Meta haven't been able to work that one out, so we would just go in and say that is first name. The more information that you include in the list that you upload, the file you upload, the better. The more what you want is to provide Meta with as much information as possible so they have a better match rate. Obviously, we're uploading data of individuals. Meta need to take that data and work out which Facebook accounts, which Instagram accounts that corresponds to then be able to advertise to those people and identify them. If you provide more information, Meta has a better chance of working out, okay, this person within this file corresponds to this user, and you get match rates of a high percentage. Typical match rates when you're uploading a customer list might be something like 40 to 50%. They're not going to be able to match everyone. People use different email addresses for when they purchase versus when they create their Facebook accounts and things like that. So the match rate's never going to be super, super high. But anything you could do to improve that percentage is a good thing to do. So we've got 2 maps. That's all that's in this this example file, and we're going to go ahead and click on import and create. Okay, now we're going to park the creating a lookalike audience based off of this for now, because I want to run through all the various sources, and then we're going to come back and show you how to do that later on. So let's go ahead and click done, and we've created our example customer list, custom audience that we can use as a source audience for a lookalike. But I want to move on to the next type of source audiences that we would create. So historically, a source audience of previous customers is your best option. After that, it's your email list. And the way you upload that is exactly the same process. So you click on customer list, click on next. Again, if you can use MailChimp, use it. Next, value. Probably not going to have a value associated with people just on your email list. If these are people that haven't bought from you previously, typically, click on upload file, and then we use example email list and pop that in there. A lot of people have this as one audience. They will have their people who have bought from them and people that are just on their email list all bundled in together. I would encourage you to separate them out, at least for uploading to your Facebook ad account purposes. So in my mind, anyone on our customer list has bought from us previously. Everyone on our email list has not. That's how I tend to split it up. I appreciate some of you will have this overlapping. Let me go ahead and click next, and it's exactly the same process, right? So one action needed. It's the same file, same information, first name, import and create, done. So that is now a custom audience, if I close that down, created from, you can ignore these previous options, created from an email list and a customer list. Customer list, highest priority, email list next, at least under the old system. Next type of source audience that I would like you to create are ones based on website visitors. And here we have tons and tons of different options. So if I go ahead and click on website and click on next, there's lots of stuff here, lots of different things you can experiment with. I would encourage you to get started with all website visitors, so that's everyone that's visited your website, and use the longest retention period possible, which is currently 180 days. The way that works is that, let's say I create this custom audience today, right now, it will include everyone who has visited my website within the last 180 days, provided, of course, we can track them, iOS 14 permitting and things like that. I'll explain more about that later on. And provided, of course, we had our Pixel installed on our website to be able to gather this information during that time period as well. But that's now going to move. So if I create it today, it's always going to be from the day at which you look at it, from today, 180 days into the past. So every 30 days, it's going to move on and it goes through that way. Now, I'd encourage you to get started with this, because this is going to give you the largest possible website visitor custom audience. And when it comes to creating source audiences for lookalike audiences, the larger the source audience, the more people you have in the source audience, the better. The reason why is because the more data you give Meta, the more accurate that lookalike audience is going to be. If you give them 3 customers, well, that wouldn't be enough. Meta wouldn't let you do it. But let's say you give them a couple hundred customers and say create a lookalike audience off this, yeah, sure, Meta could do it and that audience might perform well. But if you were to give them 20,000 customers, there's so much more data going in the first place that the resulting lookalike audience is going to be more accurate, and more accuracy leads to better results. So the most data you can get in here, the better. If you have a website where there's lots of different types of products and services being offered and you want to get more granular, you can absolutely do that. So instead of all website visitors, you could go with people who visited specific pages. So you can use things like URL contain. So let's say you're an apparel business and you want to create a custom audience of everyone who's visited pages on your website to do with hats, right? So you could say any URL that includes the word hat, if that's how you've got your URL structured on your website. I want to create a custom audience out of those people. You could obviously do different options for scarves and jumpers and trousers and whatever it happens to be. Okay, as an example. So that's one thing you can do. People who visited specific web pages. You could also create custom audiences of people that have spent more time on your website than others. So visitors by time spent. So instead of just creating a custom audience out of everyone that has visited your website, you want to only create a custom audience out of people that are in the top 5%, top 10%, top 25% in terms of time spent on the site. The idea being that those people have demonstrated more interest in what you have to offer, and advertising to people like them is better than advertising to just everyone that's visited your website, okay? So this would be a good option if you get tons and tons of website traffic, hundreds of thousands, millions of visitors every month. You might want to start getting more specific. With all these options, particularly when it comes to creating custom audiences as source audiences for a lookalike, again, the more people in that source, the better. So retention, I want that to be 180 days. Don't go with a 7-day, 14-day, 30-day retention period. You're just limiting yourself unnecessarily, okay? So let's go ahead and go back to all website visitors, because that's the option I think most people are going to use. So I'm just going to quickly call this all website visitors 180, and then we're going to go ahead and click create audience. Now, historically, the thinking was that your customer list is obviously the best source because those people that have bought from you previously. Then it's your email list. People on your email list have typically taken an extra step to demonstrate their interest in your product, services, etc., over just someone that's visited your website, which is why we're going down the list in priority this way. The more someone does to show they're keen, the higher we rank them and the better they are as someone included in a source audience for a lookalike audience. Moving on, let's click on create audience and custom audience. And here we start to get into meta sources. Now, as I said, there are other options. I'm not going to cover those because they're either fairly niche and not that many people watching this will be using them, or we just typically don't use them all that often. So we've covered the your sources section, and now we're getting into meta sources. And let's start with video. So if I go ahead and click on video and select next, and then the first thing you need to do if you click into here is select how much of a video of yours or multiple videos of yours someone needs to have consumed in order to be included in this source audience. Now, obviously, someone who has watched 3 seconds of your video may or may not be interested, to be perfectly honest. They might have just watched your video whilst stood in line or watching the TV, or they're having lunch and just scrolling through their phone, didn't really weren't paying attention. Whereas someone who's watched 95% or more of your video is likely very engaged, very keen, a really good representation of someone that's interested in your stuff. A good starting point for me, depending on how long your video is people who have watched at least 25% of your video. And of course, you're going to have to adjust this depending on the length of your video. For example, if you've used a video that's an hour long, you would want to reduce the requirement to be including a custom audience, because how many people are going to make it to the 25% mark? It's going